Share this to Discord. Okay, so TikTok no longer likes it when you leave to send it to Discord. Awesome, cool. Anywho, let's see, we do that.
Okay, it's not me, bro.
Okay, we're going to turn the volume up now.
What? I'm not gonna swear. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Here we go.
I wasn't.
And now we will just wait for David to join us. Welcome in, everyone. We have David Redkey joining us from Arizona. He is running for the Congressional District 1, which is the House of Representatives. He is, well, if Ajluni can get on it, he will be competing against Christopher Ajluni, who we interviewed earlier in the week.
Yeah, I would blame that on the upgraded speaker here.
Welcome in, everyone. Let's see, I'm going to send this out to boom, boom,
The upgraded console camera.
doom, bump, 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 bump. Let's see who else. We'll do that. Welcome in, everyone.
Oh, he's dead.
Happy Sunday. I hope everybody is having a good Sunday. So we are getting ready to have David Redkey on. He is running for Arizona's Congressional District 1. That is their House of Representatives. Let me grab my notebook. So we have quite a few topics to go over. Like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 topics. No worry, Mike. It is a later stream. Sometimes I do have to work with, where people are. He's located in Arizona, which is 5 p.m. right now, although it is 8 p.m. for me. So I get it, Mike. And it's Monday tomorrow. It is back to work. It's back to the grind. It's great if I can talk.
Yeah, I'm lagging too badly.
But how are you doing, Mike? What have you been up to? Yep, I get it. My grind looks very interesting because I have applied for a job in one place and then found out there's a job that takes place overlaps, and I'm like, ugh. And it's like I can only do one, but there's going to be a lot more opportunities for next year, and I'm excited for that. Hi, David. Early days, but weekends off. But let me bring you up. There we go. Invite has been sent. Yeah, I work Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday mornings with the chiropractor. The rest of it is trying to find work for my massage chair business. Hello, David. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? No, you can't. This is my first time. I have not done this. Oy vey.
No, you're fine. So I hear that a lot. Oh, there's some bad.
Oh, that's cool.
The echo is on your side.
Okay. Maybe I need to route this through my glasses. Hold on. So you don't hear the echo.
I'm gonna mute
Okay,
you.
now you're straight inside my head.
Here we go. Echo's gone. Beautiful. Now camera. Beautiful. We have a picture. Okay, we have picture, we have audio, and there is no echo. No worries, Mike. Take care, and I'll catch you on the flip side, my friend.
Vaya con Dios.
Okay, so we have David Redkey here. He is running for Congressional District 1 in Arizona. That is their House of Representatives. So before we get into everything, I kind of like to find out, okay, so in addition to running for a campaign, are you also employed? Do you have a job? What did you do before you started doing this? What pushed you to decide that you wanted to run for a campaign? Why?
Why? Okay, prior to all of this, I mean, I was a teacher, like English teacher, social studies teacher. Prior to that, let me see, I was working various jobs, worked for the CDC information line, where I gave general health information to the public regarding sexually transmitted diseases. And yeah, I was doing odd jobs. What happened was, what got me into education was basically one of the teachers I had was really great, Mr. Rocky. And in January 25th, 2007, I was T-boned by a tow truck that decided a red light was merely a suggestion. And basically, I survived that, suffered multiple right rib fractures, left frontal lobe hemorrhagic contusion, subarachnoid hemorrhage, diffuse axial injury, caught MRSA in the hospital. Basically, I should have died, did not, got a settlement from that, and decided to use that opportunity to finally go to school, went to school, became a teacher, and then saw the issue with education, decided that the best way to actually help would be to get into politics. And I decided to run for the U.S. House of Representatives because the people that were in it were not really fighting for the working class, the middle class. They were fighting for the billionaires and Israel, basically that. And one of the things I've learned, and one of the reasons why I switched to the Green Party from the Democratic Party, was because the LD4 chair decided that I was merely someone that would not help them get donations. As you're writing down notes,
So
sorry.
you said it was the Green Party you switched to?
Yes, from the Democratic Party to the Green Party.
Is that GREEN?
GREEN, yep, green, yeah.
Just want to make sure there was like not an extra E on the end because you never know. I'm just see. Here's the thing: is I don't do party politics.
Yeah.
I believe red, white, and blue. I believe that when it comes down to it, you have left wing, right wing, and everybody else is a tail feather, and they're all of the same bird. So no party politics. But I like hearing when other people have switched from and why they switched to other parties, what those other parties stand for. Because once upon a time, we used to have 20 plus parties, active 20 plus parties, in a lot of different races. And now we have the two-party system.
No, we have a one-party system. It's
Let's
a
be honest,
business
it's the
party.
one-party system.
Business party, as Noam Chomsky would label it, is basically they're both factions of the same business party.
Yep.
Even though they say they are fighting for the working class, middle class, or whatever, or for specific interests, their overall goal is to make sure that they fight for the billionaires, the ultra wealthy. So yeah.
And that's the thing is we can pretty much at this point all agree they're two halves of the same coin. I hear that all the time. Two halves of the same bird. Like they're just as corrupt as the other one. I could not agree more. It's part of the reason why I can't do party politics. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Everybody comes in and says, "Oh, you liberal, you this." No, I'm just me, and I'm trying to use critical thinking and do my own research and talk to the people who have done their research and are running for those positions and find out why they want to, what they hope to do, what their goals are. And, that's usually the next question is, It's the hardest question. What's your platform? What are your goals? What do you hope to achieve if you are elected to this position?
What I hope to, my platform, my main economic platform is what I call, we've been doing trickle down economics for since I've been alive, since the 1980s with
Yep.
Reagan, and it's been various variations of it, basically,
I want to say it
regardless
started
of the
in the
party.
60s is when they started pushing trickle down and it
Yeah,
gained momentum.
but it really came under that was Reagan's platform
Yeah.
was trickle down economics, supply side economics, and I decided, the term is called like they do progressive economics or trickle up economics. I just decided to label it foundation economics because I believe the foundation of our society is based on the working class and middle class. Because when they are the strongest, our economy across the board is the strongest.
It is. That's just it is. When your society is measured by the poorest of the poor. It really is. Is if you have so many of your citizens who are on that level where they are homeless and they're to a point where you're criminalizing homelessness, that's the problem. It should be the other way around. That's when you start going, okay, well maybe there's a problem back at home and maybe we should start looking at our own citizens first and being like, hey, we screwed this up. Because we're sending how many billions of dollars over in war every day towards, the Middle East when we could easily be looking towards our own people. What about last year when we sent that 40 billion to Argentina? The amount of money we send out of our country, it's not recouped. It's never recouped. It's basically like petty cash. We're giving permanent loans to countries that, oh yeah, they'll pay us back. No, they won't. No, they won't. Instead, we'll be in debt to them some other way.
Yeah, and one of the things I also saw deductively is how we give so much money to, say, Israel, and Israel has multiple super PACs or even utilizing individual donations to fund candidates. And that's a way for them to specifically take the money that's why both parties support giving money to Israel, because that money is rerouted back to their basically re-election campaign, and they want to stay in position because someone in the U.S. House of Representatives makes $170,000 a year. So that's it's not the most money like the president, which is $400,000 just for the
Here's
salary,
the thing,
but
Mike.
still,
No, one second, David. The thing about tariffs is that's not how they work. That is not how they work. To get the money back that we paid to other countries as loans, we were never going to get that back in the form of tariffs. Never. That just taxes the people more.
who mentioned tariffs? One of the people on your stream?
Yes. So if you go into
Oh,
the stream, you can actually see everybody's comments. So as we're talking,
yeah.
people are going to come in and they'll ask questions, they'll comment, so we'll address them as well because that just gets people involved.
Okay. I just saw that one about from RD Mike 2596.
Yep.
Yeah, but no, that's one of the reasons why we've put so much money towards. Think about it, that's why so much money goes to Israel, and they have multiple, uh, like different like APAC. Now they also have J Street that utilizes campaign donations to fund basically candidates. Like the four major candidates running in C-D1 for Democrat, basically just Democrat, are funded by either J Street or APAC.
Okay.
And basically, they can spend billions of dollars that is routed to them from the United States government to get the people that they want, that helps their interests get elected. And the fact that we went to war with Iran. Am I running against the last guy? Yeah, the individual. He's running for independent, and if he can make it, I give him, because any person that challenges, yeah, I'm open to a challenge. But it's basically the for a person to run as independent. Many of the states kind of try to prevent independents from running. He needs like over 500. I'm sorry, over 5,000 signatures just for CD1, which is a lot.
It's roughly 5,100. I was talking to Michael Zepeda, who is running for state treasurer, and he's got a similar thing, but it's a much lower number. But for an independent to get on, usually it's about 44,000 signatures if they run as a true independent. But because the Independent Party of Arizona is actually recognized as a political party now, it's reduced significantly to that 5,100 number.
Yeah, and even then, like that's crazy because that was one of the reasons why, like from an ideological standpoint, I kind of agree with the Green Party. I am really far left, and I believe in the working class specifically, and they have a lot lower number to get on the ballot, and then basically that's a platform to actually share my ideas and actually provide an alternative to this like one party system that we have, so to people, and try to break through and not trying to be like Jill Stein, or people like to use that, and like I am way more outspoken than her, I would believe.
Well, good. And
So
being outspoken
yep.
is not a bad thing. Look at me. It's the reason why I'm doing this. I'm a licensed massage therapist who decided on a whim, after watching Ethan Sweetland May back in December and sweetly badgering him for 3 months, he finally gave a date. That was the 4th of March. I've decided since then, okay, this is something I want to do. I want to be a political journalist. I want to interview candidates. I want to find people who are not necessarily part of the two overreaching parties, or if they are a Democrat, they are running a clean campaign and they can prove that they're running a clean campaign. They're doing the steps, they're showing all their donations, they're being public about it. They're making do with no corporate donations, no this. They are literally doing grassroots. I can back that. They're not part of the indivisible, Democrats. No, they're truly just running like it is them. They're getting donations from the people in their area. He's running for Indiana District 47, and like that's what he's doing. And I'm like, yep, okay. If I can find more people like that, independents, regardless of the state, Democrats, the Green Party, anybody who's willing to say, hey, I'll give you a few hours. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation, because I want to get my voice out there too. Because as I keep saying, it only takes one voice to spark a revolution. So let's do a revolution. And people always think that revolutions have to be bloody. But do you know how many revolutions were done quietly? Were done by people just quietly taking back their power. There was no guns shot. They just went to the voting booths. They went to the polls. They actually used their voice to take back their power. Look at Italy. Mussolini's granddaughter is actually the prime minister there. And she goes, okay, listen, my granddad, no, I'm not him. Here's my ideas. And she ran transparently. There's no agenda to become like him. Instead, she really wants to build it up for the people, because she lived the same life they did. She didn't live in wealth. She lived in almost squalor for many years. She understands what it's like to be at that line and what it's like to not. And she's even said, it's important for everybody to feel safe in their own homes, for people to feel safe to walk down the street, for them to live in a country that cares about them. How is that?
Yeah.
How is a country that just 40, 50 years ago was under an authoritarian regime so quickly turn around and be like, oh no, we put women in place now. We got this, we do this, we do this. And they're actually starting to grow again. Their birth rate's no longer declining. We have Americans who are willingly moving to there. I mean, so there's a lot of things where we can actually look at other countries and see what they've done and be like, some of those were good ideas, some of those not so much, but they've also given us a blueprint to go, hey, we have problems here. We have issues that are the same in every damn state. We need to not just band together on a state level, but on a national level to take back our power from the federal government and go, no more. This is not okay. This is not right. We have to stand up. But it takes people like me and people like you who are everyday citizens going, you know what? I might not be able to do much, but I'm going to do what I can with the little bit I have.
Yeah, exactly. Also, when you touch on birth rate, one of the reasons why birth rate is specifically declining, we're a growing population in the United States, is because it's too fucking expensive to have a child. It's too expensive to raise a family. A lot of people don't want to deal with that. And unfortunately, it puts us in a position like that. And the only way we can do that is forcing the wealthy to pay their fair share, because that will in turn force them to invest in their community and invest in their workers, which will in turn give those people more money and also bring costs down, so they're more likely to raise a family. So that will counteract our graying population. But they don't want to do that. They want to, they're so egocentric. They want to focus on just getting as much money as they can and screwing everyone else in the process.
And there's one other determining factor. And let's look at Korea, the 4B movement. Women themselves. I would gladly have 2 more kids, but there's 2 reasons I'm being held back from that. One, finances. It's too damn expensive. Oh my God, I'm still paying off debt. I'm being sued over a credit card that was used only to pay childcare. Kids haven't been in childcare in almost 3 years now. Still hasn't sent about $9,000 left on it. I was in a payment plan, but Discover got bought out by Capital One, and last October they decided they didn't want to take my payment anymore and sued me instead. I wasn't notified until March 3rd when I received the final order of garnishment, and then the day after I received the letter that let me know I actually had a hearing on March 2nd where I could fight it, but everything was done on February 10th. The police officer, the office had on the 11th. I wasn't notified until after my court date. There's nothing I can do about it. They will take 25% of my wages going forward, period.
Yep. That's kind of how they are kind of corrupt like that. There's many different areas that work individuals, institutions that work within the court system and not notifying parties. That's unfortunate. And that's one of the reasons why there was laws specifically passed in Arizona regarding like conservatorship, guardianships, where people are not being notified and then they're having their property taken.
Yep.
They're being removed from their homes.
Yep.
And things along those lines, because that's just so much money that can be drained by these specific institutions.
And then that property is then turned around and sold to foreign investors who then jack up the prices. We see that here in my state. It happens. That's another thing where I was literally just talking to Ethan earlier, because I'm going to have him on again, about the housing issue in our state and how we pay $1,200 for a 3-bedroom apartment. My mom has a 3-bedroom house with land. It's about a half acre. My mom has a 2-bedroom apartment, pays about $1,800. The people in Southern Indiana, for the same amount of money that we pay, they can't even get a 2-bedroom apartment. They're lucky if they can. And it's like, it's $1,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment. How can people afford that? And then they cannot afford to put a down payment on a house, so they sure as hell can't save up for it. But that's the point, is everything is designed to keep the poor poor. And then the second reason most women won't have pregnancies is, well, what happens if it's ectopic pregnancy? Do you know how many women in what states are going to actually be saved? Because in most states, the doctors will not touch the woman until the fetal heartbeat has stopped. But an ectopic pregnancy, by definition, is when the embryo has taken root in the fallopian tube. It is a non-viable pregnancy. It will kill both the mother and the fetal, the embryo. It's not even a fetus at that point. It will not become a fetus, because before it gets to that point, it'll expand and explode.
Yep. And that ironic. It's not really ironic, but it's a coincidence, because that's one of the things that I would talk about when I was working for the CDC information line, was specifically about ectopic pregnancies. And we've come to a society where these men want to basically keep women, just the only reason they want women around is to have children. Yeah. They don't want them to have rights or anything like that.
Podcasts and posts. And these men, they're Christian men. They're evangelicals. Women are literally nothing more than vessels for human life. We should not have rights. We should not have the right to vote. We should not have a voice. We should literally just be at home taking care of our offspring. Thankful we're allowed to live. Thankful we're allowed to be alive. But he said, even if it's degrading and disgusting, no matter what your husband tells you to do, even if he's cheating on you, you are to forgive him and let him. Oh, fuck that shit. Sorry. Part of my French. Occasionally I do drop the F-bomb, so you might have to edit me out when you post videos. But that's just it, is you have to understand another reason. Okay, DNCs. Did you know in most states, if the woman is having a miscarriage and the fetus is already dead, If it's past a certain week, they will not allow a D&C to happen. They want her body to do it naturally, but they'll do it if she's septic and on the verge of death. By definition, if her body doesn't start clearing it within 5 days, she's going to go septic. She starts reabsorbing those cells within a week. But you don't want to do anything till it's 6-7 weeks along and she's on the verge of death and most likely will die and may not be able to have another kid because her reproductive organs may need to be taken from her body.
Yep. Yep. History.
That's what's happening in America, guys. I'm not talking about Islam. I'm not talking about Sharia law. I'm talking about in America. This is what they want for us. Is this what you want for us? Is this what you want for the women folk in your life? Is this what you want for your mom, your sister, your daughter, your aunt, your niece, your best friend's little sister, whoever, any female in your life that you know, even if you don't like them, do you want that for them? Be honest with yourself. Because if you do, cool, this is not the place for you. This is definitely not the place for you. Because that's not okay. To force your will on another being, to infringe on their right to live and be happy, that's not what our forefathers want, and that's not what any of us want.
Who's pushing the belief system of women only good for reproductive? Basically, that was men for the last 100, 200 years, specifically.
Longer.
I mean, that's been going on a long time.
It's been going on
hundreds
for
of years.
millennia. This is something that even if you read the Bible, they talk about women in certain instances being nothing more than a vessel for human life. That is where they're pulling it from, which is actually twisted from what it originally was. Because if you go to the older versions of the Bible, before it was translated, retranslated, translated, and edited, and this and this and this, they actually talk about the way that the divine feminine is the way to produce the next generation. That yes, she is a vessel for human life, which is why she should be worshipped and taken care of, and why men should be the foundation for her, because she amplifies everything as she's given. So if you give her a house, she makes it a home. If you give her sperm, she makes it a child. If you give her a bunch of shit, don't be expected if you get a bunch of shit back.
Yeah, true. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that as a society that I mean, if you look at earlier societies before Christianity, if you look at like South Pacific, early South Pacific, basically
Mesoamerican,
society.
pagan, Nordic, a lot, mind you, I'm big in mythology, big in all of that. I have a cat named Quetzalcoatl, for God's sake, okay?
Yeah, but they
Valentine,
focused on women, like
the divine
focus on,
feminine,
like, oh, that's-
Mother Nature, Gaia, how the women was the divine because she was the one who brought forth life. That it was man's duty to protect them because they were sacred. You could have 10 men, but if you only had one woman, well, there's only one person that can carry on your species.
Exactly. Yeah, and
I was raised Catholic and Christian as well, and I'd started deconstructing when I was a teenager simply because I kept being told to shut up and just blindly believe, and I couldn't do that because my aunt, who was also a Catholic church nun and was for almost 80 years, told me not to believe blindly because Jesus taught her and Jesus taught his followers to not believe blindly in their faith, which is the reason why he forgave Judah when Judah betrayed him, because Judah was scared and he knew that Judah did not have the faith to follow through, and that was okay. But everybody else, at no point was it blind faith. They chose based on his actions to follow him, but not blindly. It was Judah's fear that made him betray. So understand, if you want to use the Bible, great, but let's actually use the truth of the Bible, not how they've twisted it.
yeah. Unfortunately, it's been utilized, because it's so. It can be shaped to be used in any way that these people want to use it, and to use it as a form of control, as opposed to a way to kind of provide meaning and comfort in dark areas. They want to use it to make people more likely to, like,
More afraid.
lemons
More
and
because
follow along.
fear is control. When you're afraid of your neighbor, you're willing to turn your neighbor in because you don't know which neighbor it is. It could be that one. It could be that one. It could be that one. It's none of them, but they have you so afraid that you don't know. so you're willing to betray your neighbor. That's not
Yeah.
Christian. That's not Catholic. That's
It's
authoritarian dictatorship. That's exactly what he fought against. You do realize if he were here, he'd be swearing and flipping a whole bunch of tables.
Yep. That was one of the things where he would was when they were having like the merchants and stuff in the Jewish temple. He's like, this is not allowed. You know, they need to be separated, and it's kind of corrupting God's word or God's area, and that was one of the reasons. You know, he was considered a dissident while he was executed or
Yep.
crucified.
Yep. And here's one of the things that if you go and it doesn't matter which search platform you use, you can go and find it where there have been in more than one instance, the Pope has stated that yes, the King John book was actually created and it was edited to oppress and suppress the people of that time because they were becoming unruly to control, and they needed to figure out a way in order to get the masses back under their heels. Otherwise, they were going to revolt.
Exactly.
I want everybody to keep that in mind. It was used to keep the people from revolting. They changed it to keep the people from revolting. And now they're saying, well, now it's up to the pastor, the priest to interpret it the way they want to interpret it. So some of them are interpreting it as, okay, well, I have God-given right to do whatever the hell I want because as long as I go to church and say, I'm sorry, I'll be forgiven, I'm going to go to heaven. Sorry, that's not how it works, but hey. I don't know how many people need that. Listen, if you go to church and you pray on Sunday, that's fantastic. But what God's going to care about is when you get to those gates, did you go and did you pray? Did you give your tithings? And did you then turn your back on the starving kids down the street? Or instead of giving your tithings, did you go and volunteer your time and that money towards the food kitchen or the this and the that, where they were actually serving the people? Because I don't know how many churches closed their doors to anybody that was not one of their parishioners back in November, but it was disgustingly sick. When you have the satanic church, you have, people who are on the corner, selling shit.
Begging.
Those are the ones taking care of the moms who need formula.
Yeah.
There's a problem there when the satanic church is more Christ-like than the Christian church.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Unfortunately, and basically they don't pay taxes. They basically, especially those, born again Christian or those really evangelical Christians where they have those big airplanes, private airplanes, because they get so much money from
And
their.
it's like, but here's the thing is they live better than any of their parishioners. They live better than their poorest parishioners. And the thing about being a shepherd is you are supposed to live no better than the poorest of your parishioners.
And that's the same thing. You talk about specifically the church taking money, through tithing or whatever, donations. That's the same thing when you see these political parties. Basically, I always see these letters coming from the Democrats. They always ask, oh, donate to my campaign, donate. And then they turn around and they don't even fight for you. And it's basically, that's why I'm like, this is what I represent. This is what I'm fighting for. I don't need your money. I don't want your money because I'm not doing this. I'm going to walk out there and I'm going to knock on every door that I can to basically, try to help as many people as I can, because that's why I want to do this. I want to help people. I don't want to, basically get stock options or insider information so I could become a billionaire like some of these other people in politics. No, I want to help as many people as I can because, the measure of any society, you measure a society's worth by the quality of life for the people at the bottom.
Yep.
If they are suffering, that means our society needs to greatly improve.
Yeah, and all you have to do is look the fact that we have children starving to death. Perfect example, Indiana opted not to renew their Sunbucks program. Sunbucks is the program that actually provides money to parents for food for their kids over the summer. Now, it's not much, believe it or not. It is $120. That is how much I get every summer for each child. $120. That's $240. That breaks down to, believe it or not. Okay. $60 a month, $15 a week, $3 a day for 5 days, Monday through Friday. $3. And the reason why we don't get that this summer, and I'm not joking about this, I wish I were, filling out the paperwork is too much of a hassle. Filling out the goddamn paperwork was too much of a hassle. So instead, you know what happened to that money? It went to the other states that said, yeah, sure, we want it. So now parents in our state have to choose between work, spending time with their kids, putting them in childcare, how they're going to make the money, all these other things, just because Indiana representatives didn't want to do it.
Yeah, and basically, I know like New Mexico, there's other states trying to do that, but I know New Mexico passed where they basically would give or subsidize or even give free childcare for parents, so they could basically go to work. Because if childcare is so expensive, it's in some cases even more than rent for people that are renting an apartment. And it's just unsustainable. And that's another reason why people are not having children. It's just, you have to work 6 jobs just to break even. And then, you have to put your children in there. It's going to put you even further behind. And that's why people are living off of credit cards. And that's there's so much debt. It's not even student loan debt. It's credit card debt and all these debts and harming us. And it's making sure that, the billionaires at the top are even wealthier. We're going back to the 1920s, 1910.
Which is where they want it.
Have their,
that's where
they have ballrooms. And that's why Trump is trying to build that ballroom just to bring us back to that and make a mockery of the White House in the process. But, he wants the Great Gatsby without taking into account what happened.
Right? And, did he ever actually finish watching The Great Gatsby, or did he fall asleep halfway through and everybody told him it was a happy ending? That's what I'm thinking, because it's like they did The Great Gatsby for Halloween. I mean, I'm not joking about this. Did he think it was a happy ending fairy tale movie where the billionaires won in the end? Because I think he needs to watch the end of that movie and understand what actually happens.
Yeah.
Bernie's been trying and fighting to help with a lot of these issues for the last few decades. Not even the last few years. It's been decades. He started, I want to say, back in the 60s or 70s. He started going to political campaigns and rallies when he was a teenager too. The man's life has been all about it.
Yeah, and one of the major platforms for him was doing Medicare for all, and trying to expand that. And I have a similar type of platform. Universal healthcare is important, and then I just did the basic premise of as opposed to doing Medicare, doing TRICARE, which ties it to national security. TRICARE Prime, because I have family members in the military, and they love their TRICARE Prime. I'm like, make TRICARE Prime for all, because it's a national security issue. The health of this nation, is a part of national defense. And by expanding TRICARE Prime to everyone, where they basically have universal health care, you make our nation stronger in the process. And it also gets all the insurers out of there who are basically just parasites, taking our money and providing, diminishing returns on our investment in our own health.
Yep. So I worked payroll for 7 years before I was furloughed because of the pandemic and went back to school. I used my time off the pandemic to go back to school to become a licensed massage therapist, because I have fibromyalgia, so I live in pain. I know the intricate, and I know how disgusting our healthcare system is. Let me just put it that way. It's gross. Yeah. It is so hard to find a specialist. It's so hard to get a referral. It is expensive as hell. The amount of surgeries I've needed, the amount of things I still need, I don't have the money for it. I'm already in $30,000 in medical debt, and I'm working with these places because the collection agencies have bought my debt for pennies on the dollar, and they're basically at the point saying, listen, well, if you just pay us what we paid for it, which was $1.81 for like this $3,000 debt, we will just write it off like that. I'm like, I can do that. So I'm slowly coming up with a few $100s here and there so that I don't have to pay $30,000 to $60,000 because they kept charging and I was fighting and this. At one point, they denied a surgery after they approved it, and they wanted to charge me $34,000 for it. It was a neck surgery. I had a disc replacement done and the adjacent disc to where I had a fusion done. So at C5, C6 in March of 2020, I had a fusion done. Disc was removed, fusion done. Well, a year and a half later, my disc that was underneath it herniated to the right, and I had to have a disc replacement done. Well, they approved it first, and then after my notes were submitted, they denied it, saying that you can't have a disc replacement at a spot where there's a fusion. No shit, Sherlock. So after calling them and they denied it again and then finding out, oh, it's because the doctor's notes don't match surgery. So they resubmitted it and it actually matched what was done because I called them and they sent me copies of it. They denied it again. So I actually had to call with a lawyer and tell them, listen, we're going to go to the external route. If this is not approved, we will be suing and we will win because no shit, Sherlock, you can't do that. That's not what was submitted at any point in time. So why are you still denying it? 10 days later, I got a letter in the mail saying, oh, it's approved. Second, you had to throw in suing them because we would have won. But we have the best care in the world. Yep. But here's the one thing that most females, myself included, have to be concerned about because some of these states are pushing to have our medical records available to the state and federal governments so they can find out what kind of things what procedures we're having done. If we're having, the A word done, if we're taking birth control pills, if we've had surgery, if we do this, if we do that, they want to know everything about us because they want to know whether or not our wombs are viable because that's literally what we are to them, wombs.
Yep, that's one of the reasons why Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem is, now we're terrified because Roe v. Wade was our ability to make sure that we got the medical care we needed when we needed it and our lives wouldn't be put in danger because of somebody's other's egotistical, I gotta be the big man, bullshit. Again, pardon my French.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens. And, they just want to, the billionaires want to just have a bunch of lemons to be able to work. That's why education has gotten so incredibly worse over the time. Basically one of the things I learned while I was in college is that writing by hand is actually better for cognition or cognitive ability. Mm-hmm. As we move more and more stuff to, typing it out, that actually harms memory retention. And, Dr. Mann was talking about that. It's like you basically, when you write down something, take a note, you're basically writing in your brain because it takes a level of focus. And that's, yes, a level of focus and attention. And you're paying attention because you're not only writing it out, you have to, all the different things that go into that. And we've been going into typing, taking notes that way, and you just see education itself become worse and worse. Not so much the material, but students' ability to remember stuff, and they're becoming less and less prepared for the world. And unfortunately, it falls on the not only the teachers, but it's also the school districts that don't provide the services that are available to allow students to write and learn. And yes, that is a Green Lantern shirt, I would think. Yeah, it is a Green
Lantern shirt. It even has the whole thing on the back.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not black and white. And here's the thing is, so on that note, and I did actually have talking about the whole education thing, because so in our state, my kids are not APs. We are having issues because they have cut the Department of Education in our state significantly. So they're trying to push as many kids off of IEP as possible. They're trying to reduce as many services as possible because they don't have the teachers to pay to have them there. And that's a problem because we are in the process of getting my daughter diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. So right now, her teacher is still fighting us because we don't have that official diagnosis. Well, it's taking 6 months to get in to see the person to even have her tested. This is just the evaluation. And then we have to schedule the testing. And then we have to schedule the results. So it might not be until next year before she's in middle school and we have her an answer. And we can, until then, we can't get her the help she needs because, she doesn't have that yet. That's a problem because with my son, it only took him 1.5 years to get him on an IEP. It took us 4 years of fighting to get her on one because they just didn't want to because, it's just hyperactivity. No, you don't understand. I am ADHD and I'm going through the process of getting officially diagnosed too.
Yeah,
No, you are
yeah,
fine,
it's
Hero. It is not interrupting. Please, by all means, we want your comments.
yeah, yeah.
You
No,
know?
it's also a lot of sexism. They you talk about your son basically getting diagnosed really quickly because specifically when it comes to ADHD, I have ADHD as well. It's a lot easier to basically diagnose a boy because the way it presents itself is a lot more pronounced
Hmm.
with boys because they're more active and everything like that. And in some cases, girls are like that, but they also have more subtle ways of doing it. And it's harder to detect. And a lot of girls go undiagnosed and they don't receive the treatment that they need. And they just go through the system and they don't get the type of education that they need.
Hmm.
And they're just put out into the world. And
And that's part of
unfortunately,
the
that
reason
does
why
happen.
I've had to sit my daughter and go, listen, sweetheart, I'm trying so hard to help you. I need you to help yourself too. I need you to actually apply yourself because I know you can do it. She's a smart cookie when she applies herself. It's just, it's hard because she says on the screen, everything moves around. So we've had to go to her teacher and say, you have to give her paper copies of everything. One of my friends was a special ed teacher. She said, get her paper copy of everything because it's easier for them to read. They can put rulers on it. They can make it so it's just that line and it doesn't shift on them and they're able to comprehend it better. Plus, when she writes things out instead of doing it digitally, she remembers it better. I know for a fact, me, oh, I do journals. I have lists. Like, it's funny. I was actually going to use this for my D&D campaign. It says campaign booklet. I'm actually using for political campaign conversations. But it's one of those, I get it. I look at her room. Her room is an absolute mess. So is mine. It's one of those, there's a lot of things where if you actually go through and look at the symptoms for girls, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's what we got. Uh-huh. But you're right. It is so much harder to diagnose them because the hyperactivity could just be them being energetic because we are energetic beings, but we're overly emotional. We're this, we're this, we're this. But without actually sitting down, they just assume, like I did, oh, she's just overly emotional. She's got problems. Well, yeah, I was also bipolar manic depressive at 5 years old and nobody knew.
Yeah,
D&D is
yeah,
amazing. But I went through a lot of challenges. And the thing I promised myself is, listen, our parents should have done better than their parents. Their parents should have done better than their parents. That didn't happen. We have to be the generation that breaks that cycle and actually does better for our kids than our parents did for us. And yeah, I had parents who tried. They really did. My mom did not have a blueprint for raising kids at all, and she did the best she could. I turned out pretty decent, I think. You could tell me if you think different, but I think I'm a pretty decent person. I think my heart's in the right place. I think that I'm raising my kids with the right values, you know. But that's just it. Is I'm trying to do better. So in order to do better, I have to help make sure that the country my kids live in is better than what it is today. Because that's not okay if it's not. Yeah,
yeah.
most people don't have a clue.
On a side note, I didn't know you were a Hoosier.
Uh huh. Yeah,
Oh
I've been.
yeah,
Well, go ahead.
oh no, you go.
I was born in Missouri. I moved to
Oh, okay.
Washington, and then when I was 16, I moved to Indiana. I've been here since.
Okay, I was born in Indiana, Bloomington, because my
Okay, I
mom
know
was
exactly
going
where
to
Bloomington is.
IU when she got pregnant with me, had to drop out, had me, and then when we were 3 months old, she moved to Florida where she had my brother, and then my stepdad, my mom, and all of us moved out to Arizona. We lived out here since basically '87 because of my mom grew up here for a
Mhm.
time too because my grandfather, Harry Edgerton Redkey, he's buried in Indiana because he was a racetrack promoter, racetrack driver, did all
Okay,
kinds of stuff like that.
that's
And
awesome.
so yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's not the whole saying I remember from families rise and fall in America.
Hmm.
Basically, that experience, how my mother's childhood was a lot different than mine, and um, yeah, and the fact that oh yeah, my grandfather did all this stuff. He was a promoter. He did PRR and stuff like that, and like no one really cares about that. No one knows about it. And you tell it's almost like self promotion, but even then, it's like,
Right.
okay, cool, whatever. It had no effect on my life whatsoever, and and a lot of it I had to find out after, you know, after high school when I actually found a newspaper thing where it showed my grandfather and stuff like that, which was
Right.
weird. But yeah, it is one of those things that you know my family, even though Indiana, played a part in who I was, where I was
Mhm.
from. I'm basically a product of just my environment of being able, and I want to help as many people as I can. So, and I'm sorry we segued from the what we were talking about to the fact that you're where we're from,
But you know,
Indiana
the
and
best part is
Florida and
I love
Missouri.
tangents. That is actually how this works. I am the Chaos Kitten. My stream is pretty much nothing but tangents. We eventually make it back to the original topic, especially since I have checklists. That's why I have checklists, okay? Because that way we get back to the original topic. Otherwise, we'll just go on tangents all night long.
Yep.
But it's
Nickname in high school. When I was in sophomore in high school, one of the literary techniques is called stream of consciousness. You
mhm.
know, basically they're like, "Oh wait, that's you, David," because I'm always like a stream of
Yep.
consciousness, and basically, like, oh, there's yeah, so
No, yeah.
and yeah, craziness. But
Back to school.
considering,
Because, well, I was talking with people. I've been talking with people in Arizona over the last week, and there's a lot of things I've researched into just because it's like, oh, well, this is a prime topic, and oh, this is a prime topic. Back to education, and the federal monies, and well, you said they should only go to traditional public school. What do you mean by that?
like school districts with governing boards and stuff like that, as opposed to for-profit institutions. Why? Because a lot of that is routed to basically parochial schools or school like religious schools
Yep.
where they're not really teaching material, but
Yep.
basically it's just another Bible school, whatever,
Yep.
and these people just get shuffled along. But one of the issues with public education, though, is the quality and the time and the preparedness of what school can provide and the resources available for teachers is horrible, but also like education itself, the things from a cognitive development experience, we have lost a lot of that when it comes to education. And
Hmm.
that's just when it comes to funding. Like, when I was in kindergarten and stuff, you had to write stuff out, learn cursive, you had the little sheets and everything like that. And that, that was something that impacted our ability to remember, retain information. And
Hmm.
we've gone away with that, and especially with the COVID pandemic, and basically that happening. We went into basically distance learning, and a lot of what we're seeing is the ramifications of that, where students are not as prepared, and we need to get back to the basics in many ways to help our students become better, or help our students so we can actually have families that want to put their students into traditional public schools, not because it's basically they have no other option, private school is too expensive or anything like that, but because it provides the best option available for students to learn, because that's the whole reason why education was publicly funded in the first place, is to prepare people for the work or the jobs, make them productive members of society. And that's the whole reason why education was started. That's one of the things you learn about when you go through a pedagogy or any type of education program. You learn about the basically early education, why we did this. It's like, oh, part of it was, religious, but also part of it was character building and also preparing people for the workforce. And that's why education, like we have the different like periods when you go into high school, is to prepare you to work in the like industry, basically in factories and stuff like that. And
Well,
we've
and
gone
it's
away from that.
I
Yeah,
was gonna
sorry.
say it's very telling that the Department of Education is no longer. It's now Department of Labor.
Yeah.
And Mark, I do read the comments. We were just in depth in that conversation, usually we don't respond to them unless it's 100% right on what we're talking about, which at that point it was. About how you said your dad was great and wonderful, your mom was a monster, and you were born in Missouri, your family was Old West. Totally get that. And Mike, having gone to a can't pronounce the word, parochial school, a lot of schooling can be, but here's the thing, not all of it is. Do I think that they need to teach more things in high school that are life skills related? Like how to balance your checking account and how to file
Yeah.
your taxes? Yes, I absolutely do. They should absolutely have a life skills class that teaches you how to do that stuff. Because you know what? That is critical information that you need. Honestly, home ec should come back. Everybody should know how to attach a button to a pair of freaking pants instead of throwing them away. Oh my God. But that's part of the problem is we are so inclined to just throw it away instead of fixing it because we can just go buy another. That's part of the problem is we could produce so much waste that in turn is actually impacting our country because what happens with all of that waste? Where does it go? You know?
Artie, Mike, when you talk about school and being waste, you have to think about what the tool, it's a tool, all of it. It doesn't matter what they're teaching you. One of my professors, specifically a chemistry teacher or instructor at GCC, was talking about how you utilize like science, these different types of like subjects to teach the human brain a way to like interact with a specific type of like systematic thinking. The sciences, that's what they serve for. Like even the math and being able to count, that is teaching your brain to function in that sort of way. So when you can take that skill and use it somewhere else, you'll be able to utilize it. You'll be able to, be able to be successful. And, tech classes and welding and stuff like that, that has gone away too. I don't know why, because it just comes down to funding. A lot of it's funding. They want to.
Funding. When it comes to funding, they start getting rid of the extracurricular first and the electives. Okay, and they've done that with my son's school. He had so many electives for this year. Well, going into this year, they reduced half of them, and he had to reselect his courses for his 8th grade year. Why? Well, because half the courses that he selected were no longer available because they had to pare down, and they're doing more of a core figuring out of, what's the most important thing that they actually have to teach the students, because in my state, they've also reduced the requirements for graduating significantly. As in, you can graduate without enough credits to be able to go to a community college in our state. Instead, all you qualify is a vocational school. That's it.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is have a high school diploma. It doesn't matter how many credits you have. For community college, you have to have X amount of credits and X GPA.
Yep.
Yeah, with a high school because I understand my son wants to be a veterinarian. Unless he ends up doing certain things to add certain things to his grade point, not his grade point, his credit amounts that he's got, he can't even go to Purdue. It's one of the best vet schools in the country. And he would qualify for all of the in-state benefits because they're trying to get more Hoosiers to go there. But then we have the state that's actually setting it up so that they don't want Hoosiers to go there. Make sense?
They want all that because the in-state tuition is much lower than the out-of-state tuition. So, yes, they don't want to get as many, they want to cut out the people that live there from the community so they can basically get as much money as they can, which can go basically to the presidents of those universities.
But the thing about Purdue is they're actually advocating for it to be not like that, for the high school diplomas to be back at the correct amount so that way they can get more in-state because they want more in-state, Hoosiers, where the state might not because the state wants more money, but it has nothing to do with that state in particular. It's all the rest of them. So they're advocating for, more Hoosiers at their school. And I love that for them because that's like, yes, you're on the right side of things. You're on the right side of history here.
Yes, because, that is it. If they cut down in public education, that's just a way because when it comes to unions, the teachers union is a really strong one. And they're trying to harm that. And that's specifically like control army, almost exclusively women for the most part.
Right.
And they are trying to, we already see their agenda trying to basically make women not only just a way to have children, basically cattle. They want to try to close down any opportunity for them to have any type of job that will be beneficial to them, and being in a profession where they can actually work together and advocate for themselves as opposed to being by themselves.
Hey, you know what, Hero? It's all good. And sometimes the viewer count's low, sometimes it's not. It depends on the day of the week. But the fact of the matter is, we're doing it, regardless of viewer count. Even if we only have 3 people sit here the entire night, cool. Even if we only have 2 people actually talking, fantastic. It doesn't matter because it's just about the fact that we are here and we are having the conversation. Because if we are not having the conversation and we're not putting it out there, then who can hear it? Nobody, because it's not being said. But in order for voices to be heard and sparks to happen and for things to change, we have to be willing to put our voices out there. We have to be willing to be outspoken. We have to be willing to be the ones leading the charge saying, hey, there are other options out here, people. Come on, take a step back and listen up. Let's do something different because what we've always been doing is not working. Status quo is not working because this is what got us. This is what status quo got us. Right where we are. Are you happy with that? Because I'm not. So, it's one of those, regardless of how many people are here. Great. We're just going to sit here and we're going to have a conversation. We don't sit here, we don't ask for donations. I'm a big believer of, listen, I will never ask for donations through my streams. I don't even ask my actual followers to donate to me. I've asked them, hey, if you can spare a penny and do a heart me, the fan club helps. You have no idea. That gets me out in the algorithm more than anything. That and sharing, commenting, and liking. If you do those things, you share, you comment, and you like, you helped me, thank you. If you sit here and you chill for 5-10 minutes, you helped me, thank you. I love it. Thank you. That's all I need. I'm not going to ask you to donate hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of diamonds. I don't want it. I don't need it. If you want to donate, great. Go to my links, go to Venmo. Send it to me directly. Great. Otherwise, keep your money and support your family. I'm trying to do the same thing. I get it. We are all in the same damn boat. Because if you are not one of us, you are one of them. That means you are one of the oligarchs. I promise you, you're not one of the oligarchs, even if you think you are.
Okay, shall we?
You were never able to get that chicken dish made. Well, you should make it anyways. So they're talking about my chicken and broccoli casserole because I've done cooking streams. It's
Oh
really
wow.
good.
That one of the things. Oh, if we're gonna talk about food though, one of the things that we like to do is sous vide. We like to sous vide steaks.
Okay.
Basically, it's basically a French type of preparation. You vacuum seal in food grade,
Okay.
like plastic or whatever.
Okay.
You put it, immerse it in water, and basically, no, anyone can do it. Basically, like sous vide is the easiest thing to do.
Right.
They actually there's like this one guy sous vide everything. This guy does a video about I think he lives in Florida, and he talks about doing that all the time, taking different types of meat, and sous vide it. You take it out, let it sit for a bit, pat it down, and then you basically like use a torch, or you can grill it on the you flash grill it on the stove or frying pan to char it on the outside. People like to confuse that with like boiling. It's not boiling. It's cooking at a low temperature for a
Right.
long period of time. And then, one of the most remarkable restaurants, one of the French Laundry in California, that
Okay.
is basically how they cook everything, is a French style of cooking.
Okay.
And because you're talking about chicken casseroles, I just decided like, hey, bring up sous vide, because that's something that if you like steaks and you want something to be really taste good, a steak that's well prepared, that's something that you can always try to do. There's countless videos out there in the world about how to do it. But yeah, that's something, and it's not like you see people talk about getting these Anova sous vide sticks or anything like that. My wife got a really cheap one, and I think it was like $20. That one finally broke down for whatever reason. I think it's probably me being a knucklehead, like messing around trying to fix it or dropping it or something. It got broken, so we got another one, but they're pretty cheap. And it's something where you can put it into water, set to cook for like 6 hours, go to work 8 hours, whatever, and it's very forgiving. You can come back, and you'll have a really fantastic type of meal. Especially, and it's something that you can basically. It takes any type of meat and really tenderize it in a way, and really retains the juices and everything like that. So you see a lot of those. If they sous vide them, you'll have the crust on the end when you torch it, and then you cut into it. It's like pink in there because the juice is retained inside the meat, so it's a lot better overall. So
I like
a
it
lot
when
of the,
I like it when my steak, when I cut it in, it's not red, it's not mooing, but it's still pink because it's just kept all the juices in, and it melts in your mouth. Oh, it melts in
yeah,
your mouth.
yeah, that's the best way. The best way to do that would be like sous vide, using a sous vide, sousvide.
Okay.
So the best way. Like when we make steaks, that's what we've been doing for like years now.
Okay.
So yeah, my wife introduced me to that, and it's like anytime we want steaks or anything like that, that's what we do. So
I'm gonna have to look into
kind
that
of a
because
little
I am
like a
all
little
about yummy food.
yes,
Because
and it
if
works.
I'm gonna
And
eat
yeah,
it, I want it to be healthy and delicious.
yes, yes.
So
Um,
with the federal
but
monies in
yeah,
the school. So the other thing I wanted to touch base on was when I was going through it, um, the over budgeting issue totally for the Arizona Treasury, the $350 million over budgeting. But on top of that, the fraudulent spending with the empowerment scholarship account, where I was reading into
yeah,
that, and she was saying, "Oh, but Rolex watches and Lamborghinis made up less than 1% of the purchases,"
yeah,
confirming that that money has been used to purchase Rolexes and Lamborghinis.
yeah. And it serves no purposes whatsoever. And unfortunately, that came about because of distance learning, because of the COVID pandemic,
Hmm.
and basically school shutting down, and then going into that, and then yeah, it's
Now, I agree on the fact that there needs to be check and balances about what's being purchased, and there needs to be a cap. You cannot get a freaking Lamborghini. Who needs a damn Lamborghini?
yeah, but
Please,
yeah, I mean I
right?
understand like, and, and the issue with that though is also like there's already like the overall number of students has declined considerably. People are not having children anymore, and then when you get a higher percentage of those students being pulled out, or students that were never in the system in the first place taking public monies to fund their own education, that causes a problem too, because that's taking money away from the actual schools in the first place, of money that could be allocated for that. But that's the thing that we need to focus on. Making sure people can have children again, and become where it becomes affordable, where they're able to do that. And one of the things you can do that is, uh, tax the wealthy, tax them
And that's
specifically.
the next thing
The
I want to talk about was eating the rich, because I was actually watching something right before I came on and I shared it. So the CEO, the owner of Goldman Sachs, okay, so he was in an interview, and he even stated, he was talking about the income equality, the difference between the wealthy, and he goes, "We need to tax the rich, because if we tax the rich, then we can afford to pay for all these things." He goes, "Because what's going to happen is if you don't tax the rich, eventually the poor are going to eat the rich," meaning something's going to happen. The scales are going to balance, and eventually we're going to say we've had enough, and we'll rise up. The best way to stop that is be smart. Just do what we've been saying all along. Tax the rich. The freaking 5%. That's all it needs to be, is 5% on anything over X amount. And do you know how much money they would actually furnish for the government in order to support the states and support the people? I mean, instead, they're using the little resources we have to fund a war where they've already spent $16.5 billion in the first 12 days.
Yes,
I
Yes.
have no
Oh,
clue who's trying to be the first trillionaire, but it's saying that by the end of this year, we will see our first trillionaire based on how everything's going.
yeah. And it's weird. Like with Elon Musk, a lot of it is like it's not it's kind of a joke. It's like it doesn't have money. It's like assets, and you know,
He doesn't have
I
he
like
doesn't have very much liquid cash, if you want to be honest about it. If,
yeah,
if that man lost all of his assets tomorrow, he'd be broke.
yeah,
Like he'd have
yes,
no
yes.
money to his name because that is where all of his money is tied. He lives off the interest he makes for his investments. He doesn't
And
actually have money.
he also gets like he basically can borrow against his shares,
Yeah,
even though he doesn't sell the shares. He can borrow against it
against
and then
them.
turn around and buy the other stuff with it. That's how he
Yeah.
basically funded Twitter, his acquisition of that through
Yep.
debt.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so it's one of those like he is trying to be the first trillionaire because he's using the loopholes in the system. All of the loopholes, he's sitting there and he's like, cool, I'm going to use them all until they actually put things in place that say I can't do this anymore. So the question is, if we know this is a loophole and we know it's a problem, why are we still allowing the billionaires to do it? Part of it is
yeah.
we're well aware. So this is what I call grassroots versus corporate politicians, where you have your grassroots politicians, which I would consider you one of them. They are the ones that they don't have the donors, they don't have the big parties behind them, they don't have the super PACs, they don't have the corporations. They are not bought. They are really there for the people. They are of the people for the people. Then you have your corporate politicians, and those are the ones who are literally doing to line their pockets and the corporations' pockets. They're there to make the billionaires more wealthy. That's the problem, is more of our politicians are that second category and not that first. And we need to shift back to that first so we can take power back from that second category.
And unfortunately, that with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, because they're
Doge
both
was never
this.
for us. It was always to start dismantling the government. That's
Yep.
100% what it was. It was to cause chaos, panic, and control.
Yeah, but those specific parties, they rely upon donations and
Hmm.
specifically from special interests,
Hmm.
specifically from corporations, businesses, especially after Citizens United. They do not want that system to change because it is against their own interests. When you see Charlize Fernandez, the new Democratic chair for the state of Arizona, she gets paid $100,000, at least $100,000 a year. They basically said that at her. I was in her when she was actually appointed as the state the department chair, or the chair for the entire state of Arizona. Uh, in March of last year, the first thing they said was, "Oh, her salary will be $100,000 per year from donations." And I started filming that, and then they like, "Oh, because my Meta Ray Bans, they'll turn on the light." So the guy's like, "Oh well, if money is lower, it'll be 40,000." Like he corrected
Right? Like
himself.
he's like, oh, but no, but it's really going to be 40,000, because she can only make what the people are making.
Yeah, yeah, and then she's supposed to lead the party. Then I see her at different LD meetings where she's like, her entire job is she's just a fundraiser. That's what she does. She doesn't guide what the party should do. She's basically, I just go around and try to get as much donations as I can for the party. I'm like, what? and then when you hear what happened with the basically with Bernie Sanders, the people that follow Bernie Sanders, and they, especially after 2016, when they were revolting against the fact that the Democrats picked Hillary Clinton,
Yeah. Oh, I
and
was
then
one
they
of them.
sued it and it went to the court. Supreme Court decided not to hear, but it basically decided not to hear because the Democrats argue that they're a private business and they have the power to select whomever they want.
Yep. Because that's it just is. The parties have become businesses,
Hmm.
corporations. I'm not
Yeah.
joking when I say that. That's why I say corporate politicians, because the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the core center of it is a business. That is how they get away with everything is, oh, we're a private business, so we can do whatever we want because those funds are donated to us privately. it's not public. You don't need to know, which is where that dark money comes from. And a reason why a lot of politicians who are trying to run Democratic are not taking donations from their own party.
Yeah.
And I'm like, those are grassroots Democrats. Those are the ones you kind of want to support, guys. Especially if they're not connected with any other party. They're really just trying to do what's the best thing for their people. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the gifts.
One thing especially from a philosophical standpoint is one thing that I push away from the donations at all is
very much like money laundering.
If you looked at my Act Blue page that I had up when I first ran it, it actually says explicitly that, don't donate to me. If you want to donate money to actually help your community, you can donate to a food bank. You could donate, spend time or vote, because it is, all of it's money laundering.
But that's just it. I actually went to your webpage and read through it in order to see what you were about. Just like I go through people. So at least the day before, if not a few days before, I start stalking the person I'm going to interview, so I know what you are, what some of your ideas are already, what you stand for, so that I know and I have an idea of what kind of conversation we're going to have, whether it's going to be something where we're going to debate all the entire time because our opinions differ, or if it's going to be more of a conversation where like, yeah, we're both on the same side. Let's let everybody know even more about what we both stand for. Yeah. So it's one of those, I like doing my research on people because it's one of those finding out, the TRICARE for all. I love that, getting away with insurances. Now, my question is, okay, so here's the thing. Insurances are no longer covering chiropractic care or massage care because it's not considered medically, scientifically, blah, 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 blah. The excuse is basically saying they don't want to cover it because it heals people, but it's not scientifically proven to. I had to get a degree in order to get a license.
Yep.
I had to pass a test that was a pass or fail, and you don't know whether you pass or fail till the end. And if you fail, they don't tell you how you fail. And then I have to pay a fee to get it. And then every 4 years, I have to do continuing education to keep it. But it's not a medical profession, but I'm still bound by HIPAA. So is that something that you guys would make sure is covered? Because here's the thing. Massage heals. I will tell you as somebody who has fibromyalgia, massage heals. It's why I do what I do so I can help others. It's why I became a wellness coach, because I'm big on the whole medical and being healthy, and let's live as long as we can. And let's talk about how our country is keeping us sick, because it is keeping us sick. Let's talk about how they overturned laws that forced companies to not only pay $150,000 fines and clean up oil spills or chemical spills. They repealed that, saying it was unconstitutional, and they only have to pay a nominal $15,000 fine, and nobody has to clean it up because, eventually it'll be out of the groundwater in 7 to 15 years, if not 50 to 100 if we're lucky. And then that groundwater feeds into the White River, which feeds the entire fucking Midwest. But we're not dying of cancer because of that. We're just lazy and unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of my community members live in the Midwest, and a lot of them have cancer right now. I've had 2 cats who have died from cancer. I am so paranoid about the water. I only drink bottled water. I don't even like using tap water to rinse my mouth. I will get into water in Arizona in a second. So it's one of those, like, I understand bad water. You can smell the chemicals in it. And when I asked the water treatment plants about it, because I did, what I was told was the levels are adequate for adult human consumption. Yeah. Not children consumption, not animal consumption, adult human consumption, assuming they are at least a minimum of 6 feet and 150 pounds, neither of which I am. So understand that, yes, all those chemicals that are adequate for human consumption are not adequate for the consumption of the animals that we consume.
Yep.
And so this ties into Arizona. So the Colorado River Water Management Plan. This is something I talked about yesterday. How your state, most of the states along that who are in desert areas, they struggle with water. And especially in the summer where the water levels get extremely low. I know somebody was talking about the fact, then there's fluoride. Let's not even get started on fluoride. Talking about the fact that, then of course they sell off some of the water to other states, which they do. That's how they actually get a good chunk of income into that state, is from selling the water. But that I was also explaining that when you look into all the agreements they have with those states, there's actually a contingency clause in every last one of them where it states if the water gets below X amount, they will cease all sales until the water recovers. I said, but you didn't know that. He goes, oh, no, I didn't. I said, yeah, that's why we do our research before we talk about these topics. Or if we're not sure, I usually grab a tablet and we'll start researching right there. Like, let me bring it. Okay, yeah, it was this and this and this when I read. So it's one of those, when I was in Arizona, because I was there, the weekend of the 21st and 22nd February, went to visit my best friend, went to the Arizona Renaissance Festival. It was gorgeous, loved it, absolutely had a blast. She warned me that the tap water was not suitable for drinking, so I needed to drink bottled water. And then I watched how brown that water was. And I'm like, oh, okay, I remember when our water was brown too. Nope, you don't drink that. That'll make you sick.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
Taking Flint, Michigan, and just making it nationwide. Because
Yep.
hearing about how horrible Flint, Michigan was, that was a really big, horrible issue. And then they're just like, the way things are going now, is not just Flint is just the first stage. They want to do that everywhere because they're just taking more and more money out of there. And basically, also when it comes to the Colorado River, because of global climate change, because of all the chemicals being injected in our atmosphere, we're having less water. We're having less rain. The Colorado River is going down, and
And that's one of the things I was talking about. That's part of the reason why it's drying up, is because you guys aren't getting the rainfall you need. You're not even getting a percentage of it. And if you look at climate change, I mean, perfect example. I now live in a state where 10 years ago, we weren't part of Tornado Alley. We are now. And in fact, Tornado Alley goes all the way into Michigan. Did you know that? Did you know that Tornado Alley extends all the way from one end of Oklahoma through Kansas, up into Missouri, through Illinois, all the way through the middle of Indiana, splitting it right up the middle, into Michigan? Yeah. That's climate change, and that's happened in the last 10 years. That wasn't supposed to happen until about 300 years from now. This was predicted in the 1990s by my middle school teachers. My middle school science teachers in 7th and 8th grade predicted that the Midwest, the entire length of it, all the way up into Michigan, and then eventually into Canada, because it will go through the Great Lakes into Canada. That's Tornado Alley. It will extend that entire way. If they reopen the mines in Montana that were closed, that are run along Old Faithful's lava veins, the reason why they were closed, and if you go and you start researching them, vast majority of them were closed because of the seismic activity that was triggering there and at Old Faithful. They almost caused it to shoot off back in the 1970s, which is the reason why they started closing most of those mines. So what happens when they start reopening all those mines under Trump's administration?
Yeah, it's just going to get worse and worse.
They got rid of all the EPA protections in a lot of states. In our state, they're getting ready to reopen steel mills that have been closed for 50 years, and they don't have to put any protection in the air for the particulates that it's going to be expelling. I live 5 miles from one of those. I have asthma. My daughter had pneumonia for the first time at 6 months. She had her first viral infection at 2 weeks because my sister-in-law thought it was a good idea to bring her sick kid around my daughter. Okay, so you have two people right here who already have lung issues. I own a nebulizer, and we stay on top of the fluid just in case either of us start getting a cough and we start wheezing just a little bit. What? Oh no, nebulizer. We don't play those games. Do we have to do it more than once or twice a year? No, but I'm afraid we're gonna have to start doing it all the time again. But that's just our state. That's every state. Now I will say, when I was in Arizona, one thing I absolutely loved. I spent all day out in the freaking sun in 83-degree weather. I sweat. By the time I got
you
back,
came during the winter.
I know. It was on a Sunday too. It was on the 22nd of February. I smelled my hair. It still smelled freaking clean. 12 hours later. 10 minutes outside here, I come in, I have to wash my hair again because it stinks. Because it picks up all the pollution in the air. That's the difference in the air quality. Now, Phoenix itself has its own laws, that district I know has its own laws in place regarding air pollution. Fantastic. I love that. I love the fact that they were able to push so hard for that. But that's just one area in an entire state and one area in an entire country. And what happens when Old Faithful blows, if it does? I mean, have you ever seen what the actual explosion, like the entire area? It goes all the way to the East Coast. It goes up into Canada. It's not small. it will destroy all of America's farming land for at least the next 100 to 150 years. We will have to
Yeah.
import all of our food. They don't care.
Yeah.
I think RFK is a joke and he needs to retire.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
He wants to
Well,
put people like me in a camp and take us
well,
up as our SSRIs. We're just going to leave that
like,
one alone.
he has, there's one nugget of truth or goodness wrapped around a bunch of crap, or is basically, just getting all the chemicals out of the food, going to more natural food. That's the
That
one
is,
good thing.
I do actually agree with that. But then again, that should be the top priority of anybody who's in charge of health is get the
Yeah.
corn syrup out of our food. Get the processed
Yeah.
shit out of our food. Get all the preservatives out of our food because that is the shit that's making us sick and keeping us sick and making us fat and keeping us unhealthy.
And
Plus,
if you look at other countries, that specifically when they start moving towards that, specifically like Japan, they've gotten a lot of more processed food, and they're having more of an obesity problem too
yep,
because of that. There's a link between the quality of food that we're eating, high calorie, low nutrition, causing people to eat more for the financial reason, but they're eating more because it's not providing the nutrients that they
yes.
need.
And their body. And mind you, again, I'm a wellness coach, so this is a lot of what I do. I've been able to take my own health and used to be 247 pounds. We just found out what was wrong with me. So I was starting at 32 at an uphill battle both ways with brand new specialists who I didn't know and didn't know me, and trying to hope to God I found people who actually helped. To here I am 9 years later, and what I do for a living is help other people take control of their lives and live good, healthy lives. Be able to figure out, okay, well, this is what you need to do. This is what you need. And I just tell them step by step, these are how we just slowly change the habits in your life. I'm not telling you to do anything and change drastic overnight, but I'm saying, okay, instead of drinking Mountain Dew, look at the ingredients and understand all of those ingredients in your body are actually, I hate to say this, they're killing you. It's a very slow death. But all of those things sit in your fat muscles, or not your fat muscles, your fat tissue. And your body sits there and slowly reabsorbs it into your body. And a lot of those things, when they sit in your body too long, can become carcinogenic. That means cancer causing. So you need to, one, not ingest them, and two, do the right things to get your body to release that shit from your cells so that way your body can flush it and you can actually feel better. Yeah, yeah. Believe it or not, it is possible. I am living proof of this. Like, I am 135 pounds now. I am a size 4 pant, and I am not even trying. I am just slowly toning everything up. But if you also see what I eat, I don't eat a whole lot of boxed stuff. It's all fresh. There's broccoli, there's chicken, there's egg noodles, there's cream of celery, there's all my spices for chicken and broccoli. There's all these ingredients for this. But we do a lot of fresh cooking in our house because I have issues with preservatives. I can't do a whole lot of lunch meat. I have to do boar's head because it has no preservatives in it. It's the only one that doesn't make me feel physically ill. I can't do ground beef anymore because they use too many of the ground beef particulates, which is all the things that we used to be called pink goop or pink slime. Well, it has actually been reclassified as ground beef. So they're allowed to put up to 25% of that in any ground beef package that you might have. Yeah. So it's things like that where people even try to eat healthier, and it says 100% USDA ground beef, and it's right. But it can allow up to 25% of all of those particulates into there. And that is all the organs, the tongue, the brain, the this, all those things thrown in there that they don't use for steaks. That's what ground beef is. It's all those extra particulates.
Yeah.
So for my
Yeah.
advice, when it comes to beef, go to a butcher. Seriously, go to a butcher. They will grind it up in front of you so you know it's 100% ground beef right there. Go to a butcher. Find your local butcher. They will take care of you. Be a little more expensive, but you know you're eating healthy food. Because a lot of those
Yeah.
local butchers, they purchase local cows that were grown by local farmers, and it helps to reinfuse the local market.
Well, Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which gave rise to the Clean Food and Drug Act. If you ever read that book, was basically about the meat packing industry
Hmm.
way back in the early turn of the 1900s. Basically, how horrible it was, and there's people that would fall into vats and that would get ground up and put into the meat
Yep.
and still sold. and all the different types of just how disgusting it was, and it's
Yeah.
making people sick.
Yep.
And because that book released, because of Upton Sinclair being a muckraker type of reporter, which would basically expose horrible things about the specific industry, that case
Hmm.
being the meat packing industry, people got so outraged by that that they passed the Clean Food and Drug Act, and they kind of did away with that. But then we have people like, slowly diminished over time, be it Democrat or Republican, and we've gone back to where we have the pink goop back in the meat again.
Yeah, and that's something
Come
where I have to point out to people because most people don't know that. They're the, well, I thought it was banned from McDonald's, blah blah blah. Yeah, but here's the thing: it might be not be in their chicken nuggets, but it's 100% ground beef. They don't have to disclose, and that's the other thing is they don't have to disclose when the FDA pushed everything when the law was pushed through. They don't have to disclose how much of it is actually the pink goop because it's
Yep.
considered ground beef.
Yep.
So when it comes to organic is typically worth it, yes. Because the way it's grown, it has less pesticides, it has absorbed less chemicals from the groundwater, it has absorbed less chemicals from the rainwater. It's a lot healthier and a lot better for you because of how it's grown. It is going to be a little bit more expensive, but as one of my clients said, it's $10 more expensive for the bushel of apples. He goes, I bought the apples. They were freaking delicious. Probably some of the best I've ever had. I said, exactly. I said, it's worth it. It tastes the way it's supposed to taste. Organic tastes the way it tasted back in the 80s and 90s. Okay? If you understand what I mean, you know what I mean. That's organic.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I buy organic milk, especially when I make, that's my wife is lactose intolerant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just me and, the kids that'll drink the milk. But I always buy, like organic milk because instead of using the low temperature pasteurization, they use ultra high heat or ultra pasteurization to basically kill
Mm-hmm.
everything in there. And it changes the flavor, but you get that milk and it is a lot better. And it is something that where it can be shelf stable,
Yeah.
not shelf stable, but well, the ones that the baby formula ones that
Yeah.
are able to be like on the shelf is
Yeah.
because they use the ultra high heat
Yep.
or ultra pasteurization to basically kill everything in there. But when you get the organic milk, it's the same thing,
Yep.
and you basically can have it last a few months as opposed to like less than 2 weeks if you just buy a regular
Yeah.
non-organic milk.
No, you're lucky if you buy regular milk if that gallon of milk lasts you longer than 7 to 10 days. Why? Because it just spoils that quickly.
Yep.
A lot of times,
Yeah.
believe it or not, so I used to work in a grocery store. I've worked a lot of jobs in my lifetime. And I worked evenings, so when they did a lot of receiving, and I talked to them, and there were times where we received the milk when it was warm, and they still put it out.
Yeah.
And
Because they
it's
don't
like,
want to. They don't
they don't
like
want,
that shrink.
well, that's exactly it, is they don't want to claim it, they don't want to send it back. Instead, well, it's good, it's only slightly warm, it's kind of still cold, but it's like, dude, how long was that sitting at 45 degrees instead of at 32?
Yeah.
How many microbes have grown in there, and how sick are people going to get from drinking it?
True that. So yeah,
People
but
just
it's all about the bottom line. They don't care because as once you purchase it, you're out the door. How many people return milk or return anything back to them and they have to
unpasteurized. Do you
refund
mean
the
like
money?
raw milk?
No, just any milk, like
No, he's
any
asking
material. If you buy
unpasteurized.
it from the store, once you pay for it, you're out the door. They basically have the money, and
Yep. And they don't
statistically,
care.
you're more likely to throw it away than you are to return it. And
Yep.
so they can
They
still
count on
sell
that,
that
believe it or
horrible
not.
milk.
It's the same reason why when if you go through a grocery store and you see a coupon and or something on the wall and you see it's expired, take a picture of it. This is what I do all the time. Take a picture of it, and then when you go up to checkout, show that to them and tell them where you saw it. They'll go grab it off the wall, but they'll also have to honor it because if they don't, and you take that picture and you go to corporate and you take the receipt and say they didn't honor it, guess what? Not only will they honor it, you actually will get more money, and they will get their asses chewed out because why did you not just give them the $5 goddamn? Well, believe it or not, that is one way to knock down your bill if you ever see something that you really like and it's on sale. Like we have snow legs or snow crab legs in the deep freeze right now because of that. It's $10 off. Okay, got me a 2 pound box. But yeah, unpasteurized, that's raw milk. You shouldn't be drinking that. Period.
Yeah,
It's
because it has
really
feces.
unhealthy
That
for
has
you.
there's
Like
all kinds of crap in their
there's all
blood,
kinds of
feces.
microbes in
Back.
that will can make you very, very sick. Least of all feces.
Yeah.
But understand, like the udder, the nipple, the feces can sit there, but it could also have an infection. The
Yeah.
cow could have an infection and you not even know it. Okay, that's part of the
And
reason why
there's
you don't
pus
use
in that
raw
milk.
milk, because the pasteurizing it is meant to kill all of those organisms that could otherwise contaminate it or make you sick.
Yeah, but the regular pasteurization, that's the difference between
Yep.
regular milk and organic milk is that organic milk uses ultra pasteurization, which is a much higher temperature. Basically,
Yep.
there's anything in there, it kills
Yes.
anything. Nothing is going to survive that. Unless it's maybe like, some,
Yeah. I was gonna say,
some
so there
type
were
of
the
like,
influencers out there that were pushing the whole raw milk as it being healthier. Then one of them pushed it so hard that somebody's child died because of it.
yeah.
There was a whole thing about the lawsuit because the influencer told this mom that, oh no, your kid will be fine, your kid will be fine. It's not that, and the kid ended up dying because of an infection they acquired from drinking the milk.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, please, 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 before you guys listen to an influencer, including myself, do your research. Do your
Yeah.
research. Why? Because you never know when somebody's trying to spin you a tall tale.
Yeah, but now we're at a place in society where first, like a resource to utilize would be like the government, like
Mhm.
CDC or anything like that. But it's become under this current administration so horrible that you can't even trust the government.
Yeah. No, and that's the issue.
Ugh.
Before you used to be able to trust those websites, and now you're like, no, because how much of it is the misinformation? You're better off. I'm not even joking. Going and finding another country's equivalency website and reading off of theirs because they are going to actually be accurate at this point. I would
Yeah,
not trust WhiteHouse.gov, and I would not honestly trust most of our government websites right now.
yeah, yeah.
And that's the
But I
sad
mean,
part.
even under like Democrats or people not Trump, um, the
Other administration.
information is still through the like. When I worked at the CDC info, we had the Camp Lejeune thing, basically the military being exposed to poison at the
Hmm.
Camp Lejeune military base, and having to deal like potentially talk to callers about that. Like even then, the government is like, oh, it's a top tier resource. When I was going through college, but even them, they're known to lie, and yeah, they're not. And now it's just even more obvious,
And that's just it.
unfortunately.
And now a lot of more of us are awake. And it's not, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
a lot of us weren't already awake, but a lot more of us are finally awake and realizing that, oh, okay, so the things we were warned about when we were in our teens and 20s are happening. This is bad, and we need to do something about it. Because if it doesn't, then all the things that were predicted back in the 19s and 20s and all those, dystopian novels that are out there are going to be true. And none of us want that. None of us want the Handmaid's Tale in real life. I hope.
Yeah.
Please tell me you don't. Because, ew, no. That kind of ties into the whole how the House buried a bill that exposed, sexual assault and the lie that didn't protect the PIP and the lie that it didn't protect the victims.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's I got one of the representatives for CD3, I think it is. She basically stated that she voted no. She's a Democrat. She voted no because it doesn't protect the victims. Of like, if you actually look at page 3, it specifically says victims' names will be basically any kind of identifying information for victims and or alleged victims or people associated with them would be redacted. And that was just like they were like, oh, it doesn't protect the victim. That's just an excuse for them not to police themselves, not to be honest, and allow sexual misconduct to continue unabated in the U.S. House of Representatives. And
yeah.
one of the reasons why this came up is because a Republican came up and was inappropriate with staffer, and it caused a big instance. The Republican resigned, but because a Republican promoted these types of rules, they're like, oh, we're not going to vote for it. And That's what the Democrats said. And then turns around, you have 85% of the Democrats saying they don't want to support it. And then you have 180%, or not 180% of the House Republicans also voting against it. That shows that they just want to protect the status quo and protect the misconduct that is,
It shows that they
harming
don't
accountants.
want to make change in the areas where we're demanding change. Like,
It's not even making change. They don't want to be accountable. They want to
well,
keep
and that,
us.
that 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 ties directly to, in my opinion, the Epstein files. Because if they hold themselves accountable on one area, then they have to hold the higher positions accountable too, don't they? And it
Yeah.
comes to accountability. It is. It's all tied together. It's they would rather squash it and keep the status quo because at the status quo they are currently protected because one, a lot of them are fighting change at this point because the status quo, because they are protected on the status quo. And two, because my question for you is how many of those are going to be exposed?
Yeah.
How many people are going to be exposed if that went through? That's the question you have to ask yourself is you want to hope nobody. You want to hope zero. The real question is out of those 300 something people, how many of those would have been exposed?
Yeah.
You know?
No, discovered. It wasn't discovered. It was aware. It was there. It was just like, you know, it's just something to use to divide us and keep us distractions. All of it. They don't want to be held accountable. They want to make sure that the system functions so the wealthier or the wealthy get wealthier while the poor become poorer, and we become basically subservient to them, and they can basically we get into the position like in Blade Runner where you have the ultra wealthy living at the top of these really high buildings and in luxury while everyone else is like fighting over the scraps.
I'm drawn to a comparison of, okay, you have all these high rises where you have all these people who have the money, the rich, who are living above the cloud line of smog, where everybody who is poorer is living in the smog, where they're getting sicker and sicker because they can't afford to move up to a place in the tower where the smog doesn't exist. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because that is a great parallel to exactly where we are in every instance in every state. Because I'll tell you, I have Utah, I have Arizona, I have Indiana, I have Georgia, I've talked to people in Michigan, North Carolina, Florida, Washington, I have somebody scheduled for Oregon. It's the same across the board when we are all talking about these topics. It's exactly the same. It's the same concept where almost every citizen in every state is tired. So when you have these lawmakers who are voting against their constituents' best interests, you have to ask yourself, why exactly are they doing that? What are they trying to protect and keep from being exposed? Who are they trying to protect and keep from being exposed?
Yeah. And to go back to like it look at how much money went to Israel with the last budget.
Yep.
They pass this information like billions of dollars goes to Israel. And what happens with that, a lot of that money gets funneled back into their specific, they have multiple organizations like J Street, APAC, that they fund different candidates, regardless, Democrats and Republicans. And so the reasons why the Republicans and Democrats almost unanimously support things for Israel is because there is a financial interest for them to do so. Because when they get that money, they get their piece of the action will get turned around and funneled back into their campaigns in a few weeks, months, years, whatever. When they are up for re-election, they can count on that money to go back to them.
Which, as somebody
A lot of
pointed out
conflict of
earlier,
interest.
that is almost a type of money laundering, where
Yeah.
you're giving money to a country that you know is going to give it back to the campaign party because it's a private business that is then going to turn around and feed it into a candidate that they want into the position to continue that cycle. Oh, wait. I think that is the definition of money laundering. Oh, especially when, if you know what happened over the course of last week where Trump bypassed Congress to sell Israel 20,000 bombs, and that included 12,000 100-pound bombs, and those alone were worth $650 million.
Yeah.
No worries.
Okay. Yeah, my glasses are about ready to die. So, I mean, can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay,
But the
fine.
echo's
Okay, because it would transition quickly because my glasses are about ready to die.
gotcha.
It's at
So
like
here's
5% or
here's what
10%.
we'll do. We will put a
Oh
pin
no,
in.
I'm fine.
I was
I'm
gonna
fine.
say, you're good
Yep.
because I have more questions. I'm gonna have to have you back on.
Okay.
But no, we can keep going for a little bit longer. That's fine. But yeah, so we talk about Israel, and for people who are not aware, the APAC is the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and it sponsors candidates across the board in all 50 states for all levels of Congress, be it federal or state. They are sponsoring people for treasurers, for secretaries, for this, for that. So there's a lot of people where if you go to the websites, you will actually see where they are not taking APAC money and they are not taking J Street money because they want people to know that they are not being bought by these corporations. They are really trying to do it against them. So if you want to vote for somebody who is not going to take the American Israel money, vote for that candidate because they are sincerely not going to be taking that money to fund into another country that is going to fund it back into the party to give to more candidates and repeat the cycle. Because that's
Yeah.
part of the problem is when we have foreign interest putting money into our parties because they're private businesses and then funneling that into candidates. We have foreign countries buying our politicians. Oh,
Yep.
that's the
That's
problem.
why,
And here's the
and
thing,
that's why
it's
American soldiers
Republican
are
and
dying in
Democratic.
Iran.
It is
Yeah.
both parties. It is not one, it's not the other. They are both corrupt in that sense because they are both taking donations.
Yep. The two major parties, yes. And that's why we have American soldiers dying in Iran now, or in the Middle East again.
Yep.
And I've been arguing as like people have not like it's kind of joking about like, oh, they didn't realize how powerful Iran is because Iran is basically like a natural
Right.
fortress because of the mountain ranges and stuff like that. So it's really, really hard for anything to basically happen. And they're in a position where we're going to send, you know, APEC has basically almost all our politicians by the cojones. And they're going to send our soldiers off to die because, you know, the APEC is calling, or Israel is calling back their favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, we paid for you to get elected. Now you pay us with
Yep.
your soldiers' lives.
Yep. So, and that's part of it is they gave to the Republican Party that then supported Trump. So now they really are calling their favor and saying, we paid you all that money. We helped to get you elected. We paid in millions upon millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. You owe us.
And well, also Epstein basically potentially being a agent for Israel to get dirt on politicians across the board, like Republicans and Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that type of leverage over our politicians that they got from people like Jeffrey Epstein. And we're in a position where our soldiers are people had nothing to do with these men in power harming girls. They're going to go out to fight a country that did nothing to us, makes Israel uncomfortable because they're
Right.
trying to rebuild their greater Israel,
Right.
and they're going to send our soldiers off to die.
Yes, Epstein was Jewish.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's another thing where, he's using this and saying it's a holy war. And this is the whole reason why our forefathers cautioned against the separation of church and state, is because at no point in time did they want our country to become like England, where the Vatican ruled the king, where religion dictated what the king decided to do. It was always supposed to be, we have a president who is not directed by any religious fanaticism, who is not going to a holy war. Well, our No More Wars president just declared war on Iran.
Yep.
He said boots on the ground because the military for the Marines does not actually need Congress's approval to be sent overseas into a war zone. That is done at the president's own discretion. So understand that the president put boots on the ground, young men and women, Marines, to fight a war for Israel, who's calling it a favor, but at no point should America have ever been involved. At no point. It's not our job to police the world. So what do? They make the Board of Peace, because guess what, gentlemen? They are bored of peace. Look at who's on it. All the authoritarian dictators on the list? Really? But they're the board for peace?
Yeah. And as soon as, they started invading Iran, basically Israel started, bombing their neighbors again and started attacking their neighbors because they were trying to create, they're trying to annex land from other countries to build their greater Israel.
And so one of the things I was turned on to today that I was looking into before I got here, you know what false flagging is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Israel's false flagging their neighbors. You want to know whose flag they're using? Ours.
What?
Because
Yes.
those were not American strikes.
Yep. They just want to pull us in there, get us into another forever war, and basically is going to cut, is going to eventually bankrupt us at some point.
Understand that we are in World War III. The second that he took Venezuela as president, it started. It was only a matter of time. And if you really want to get honest, in 2030, they're going to admit it started in 2020 with the pandemic, because that was an American-made virus that was meant to actually reduce the population of the world to help with overcrowding. And in turn, it was supposed to help produce and build up the birth rates, but it's not working how they planned it out. But anyways, give it a few more years. You'll see. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but God damn, when everything turns out to be true and you start sitting there and going, it's not a coincidence anymore that any of the stuff that's happening, because they're even telling us out loud that it's not a coincidence. Guys, just listen to what they're saying, because they're telling us the truth now. It's just people are like, no, they're not. No, it's just Trump, head in the ground. No, he is saying the inside stuff out loud, because that was what people with dementia do. They lose that filter. He doesn't
He's a
realize
puppet.
he's saying his inner thoughts out loud.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
and
when
they
they talk about
basically
age of consent
they
being
have so much
six,
leverage. They basically have so much leverage over him that we're in this position.
But as somebody asked, as for, Chinese owning a lot of land, yes, actually they have bought up a lot of farms. In the area where I live, we have an issue with not just foreign investments, but BlackRock and BlackRock's umbrella, companies buying up apartments, buying up land, buying up houses, and then jacking up the prices significantly, like double to triple what they were, so that people can't afford to live in them, making it a luxury and a premium to just own a roof over your head, so they can have more homeless people, because that's how they fill the prisons they are building, because they just bought more land to build a prison. They bought more farmland to build a prison.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a few months, middle of last year, I actually read an article where they basically, it was in my newspaper, Arizona Republic, how we should be looking forward to being forever renters, where we should not really look forward to having private property like a home or whatever. It's better to rent, because then you can move anytime you want. And it's just like, oh my goodness
But
gracious,
that's
because
not, no. Do they not understand how equity works? How a house is an investment, and then when you rent, you actually lose a shit ton of money?
yeah, because the only person that's getting money is a landowner.
Right. So yeah, great. You can
And
move
then
anytime you want, but you have no grounds, no roots, no nothing. You have nothing that you've built that you can turn around in 15 years when you need to move and say, okay, now it's time to sell it. I pay off the rest of it, and now I have $250 that I can seed a new house with.
yeah, unfortunately, that's another reason why, that push towards robotics and stuff like that, AI, is because we're like the population of the United States, we're slowly growing population. We're having less and less children because, they don't want us to own anything. They don't want us to have children. And, it's just those wealthy people, the ultra rich, want to get richer at our expense. They want to extract the money from us and basically leave us as lifeless husks.
Yep, and that's the reason why, I went into a career where I cannot be replaced with a robot or AI. You cannot replace a hands-on healer with any of that. Congratulations. I have one of the oldest professions in this world. It is a hands-on healer. If you go into Egyptian, 21,000 BC, there's recorded records, hieroglyphics, talking about somebody using their hands to heal the pharaoh, manipulating his muscles, moving the... Okay, so we have been flagged for misinformation. Congratulations. I wonder what misinformation we're talking about, because I was just talking about massage therapy. You gotta love it when people decide that. No, we got flagged for misinformation because I guess we're talking about things that are not true.
Probably anything involving Israel, maybe APAC.
No, it came specifically when I started talking about massage therapy.
Oh, yeah, because the pharmaceutical industry, the medical field, and stuff like that. The insurance companies make so much money at our expense, providing less care. Yeah.
And here's the thing is, so as of the first of this year, most insurance companies are no longer covering massage therapy because it's not considered a scientifically proven method of healing and curing.
Yeah.
And reality is, okay, so I work with a lot of vets, and mind you, the VA is no longer covering massage, which in turn is actually going to hurt most of the vets, because a lot of my vets, the only time they can sleep is for the first few days after they come and see me, because I relax their muscles enough that they're not like this when they're trying to sleep. They can actually relax and fall asleep, and they don't have those PTSD episodes, which is what keeps them awake, because they're not clenched up, because they're actually releasing the trauma that's held in the muscles. Because guess what? Trauma is somatic. It's held in your body. It's held in your muscles. So I work with a lot of vets, and there's a lot of times where they tell me, because they got tears, and I'm like, do you want to talk about it? Do you want me to be quiet? Do you want me to just pet you? Like, they're like, nope, keep going. It feels really good. I don't know why I'm crying. I'm like, well, let's talk about how emotions are held in the muscles real quick. And by the time I'm done, they're like, oh, that actually makes a whole lot of sense. I'm just like, let me grab you a Kleenex real quick. That's why I have a box in here. Why? Because it heals. In 21,000 BC, the hieroglyphs talk about, and that's where I got flagged. Here's the thing.
We have a moderator in here.
I know. You can go to Google and just Google it. You can find all this information I'm about ready to talk about. 21,000 BC, Egypt talked about hands-on healing. Japanese culture, 16,000 BC, talked about hands-on healing. Also talked about how to use bamboo for cups. That was one of the first types of cupping that was used. Cupping is when you use decompression therapy to separate the different tissues in the body in order to move the fluids around, so you can get anything that's stagnant and sitting in the muscles out and pull good fluid in. It helps significantly with the healing process. In fact, it significantly speeds it up. Then there's gua sha, there's deep tissues, there's myofascial. By the way, I'm licensed, so I think I do actually have the ability to speak on this. Whoever reported me, thank you and God bless. Yeah, acupuncture is another big one. But there's a lot of things that insurance companies don't want to cover anymore because they're holistic. They heal and they cure and they help find the root cause of the problem. But there's no money in healing and curing people. The money's in keeping everybody sick and treating the symptoms.
Yeah, keep giving those forever treatments that they have to keep receiving over and over and over again. And either be it a pill or something where they can charge hundreds of dollars for a prescription.
I have one client who she gets one medication. It's $4,300 a month. She hits her deductible at the end of the first month because her deductible is $4,000. That's one pill.
Wow. Yeah. Man, once wow.
Yeah.
And now with her specific deductible, like once it hits the limit, will they stop paying for it, or does that mean she's 100%, like she gets it free for the rest of the year?
So they don't do 100% there. When she pays 100% until the deductible is hit. After that, they do an 70-30. They cover 70% of it, but she's still liable for 30% of everything.
Oh man, yeah. Man,
that was changed as of this year again. Because with what happened at the end of last year and how all the insurance companies, Premium skyrocketed, deductible skyrocketed. They're gouging us every way they can because, oh, well, Obamacare is not actually affordable. It's not the Affordable Care Act. It was affordable because of the subsidies, because of how expensive it is to begin with. And it has nothing to do with the ACA. That is just how much health insurance companies cost. That's how much they charge, base, period. The problem's not with that. The problem is with the health insurance companies to begin with and the premiums. No, most of the oligarchs, they
can
don't
afford
worry
it.
about it. They don't care.
They have so much money, it's like, okay.
Most of the politicians don't care because politicians get their insurance for free.
So
you can, but Rick, that's why we're doing this, is because here's the thing. Let's be honest, we've lost the federal government. Okay, it's ruled by the oligarchs. It's ruled by the corporations. It's not there for us, and unfortunately, we have a lot of states that are right there with it. So what the people need to do is we have to, as a collective unit, take our power back on the state level. If your state is not working for you, make it. Go out and vote. Use your voice. We all have a voice and we are obligated to use it. We are obligated to go out and vote. It is not just a right. And genuinely, it is an obligation. The fact that in midterms, almost half of the population doesn't vote. And in presidential elections, a good third to almost a fourth of a good third to almost 2/5 of it don't vote. That's a lot of people. That's 35 to 45% of people don't go vote in the presidential election. And it's anywhere between 50 to 55 that don't vote in midterms on average.
Yeah, for the Tempe City Council, they had their vote last week, and their turnout was about 25% of the voting population voted for their Tempe City Council. So that greatly reduced the number of people because a lot of people just don't either want to vote, they don't feel in like a necessary position to do it. I mean, you see with President Obama, he got a lot, because he was so different. They were expecting him to be something different. He got a really large turnout, set records. And then Biden had the same thing when he ran. And basically, they didn't like that. And my glasses just died.
No. So since your glasses died, and now we got a battery cell. Why don't we put it tonight? And then we'll come back.
You shouldn't be super discouraged about voting. The best thing you can do is make yourself informed about, the people, and specifically also be careful about donating to politicians because it's okay. It's basically panhandling. The only difference is that they wear a suit and they're not on the street corner asking for your change. And our society thinks that's okay, and it's not. And the way I look at it is being no different. So you should look at your politicians who you're voting for and look at basically what they actually stand for. And then when they basically don't give you what you want or fight against your interest, vote them out. Vote for someone else, and listen to someone that wants to argue and fight for you. Oh, you can't hear me anymore?
Yeah, it's really bad.
Oh, I'm sorry, because my glasses. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me better now? Because I have.
The feedback from the glasses.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's
Yeah, and they have to charge.
Yeah. So like I said, why don't we put a pin in it, and we'll schedule and we'll continue the conversation. I have a lot more to talk about.
Okay, sounds good.
Good. Then I will message you and we'll get figured out.
Okay, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks for coming on, David.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay, there we go. Awesome. So yeah, gotta love it when people flag you for misinformation when you're not actually speaking misinformation. You're
Right.
talking from a actual professional standpoint where I have a medical degree, I have a license, I know what I'm speaking about. These are facts that you could actually go look up for yourself very quickly by using Google. Yay! But so here's the thing, Mike, don't be discouraged. I am doing this specifically because people are discouraged from going to the voting booths. I am doing this specifically because there's a lot of us out there that think we have no options, we have no choices, so what's the point? Wasn't me, just wanted to put that out there. No worries. And here's the thing is, I've been there, I've done that, I get it. So I'm trying to help make a change. And this is how I can help make a change. I can bring on political candidates who are running for different offices in different states, and I can have a conversation with them. I can post those conversations to YouTube, which I will be doing. So if you're not already following all my links in the social, do that. Follow me as well. I will be putting my YouTube out there here in the next few days, along with the first few videos that I've already downloaded of the interviews that I've done. I will also be putting clips out there. Why? Because a lot of this information is really, really important for people to know. The amount of things that we talk about that people have no clue about. I mean, how many of you knew that, believe it or not, they legally can put pink goop in your ground beef because it's considered 100% ground beef. The fact that the chemicals in the water are keeping everybody sick, but they're blaming it on everything else and just saying we're lazy. No, a lot of us are just sick because of the chemicals in the water and the food is keeping us sick because our bodies are not designed to process it. But it's adequate for adult human consumption. Quote unquote. But that's just it. You know, there's a lot of different topics we talk about. A lot of people want to believe that our system can be fixed. There's a lot of people, myself included, raise it to the ground. Anarchy. If we can't fix it, destroy it and start over. But if we can fix it, wouldn't it be easier to just take what works and go from there? And a big example of this is with the Epstein files. My big belief, my opinion is, quite frankly, we need to hold everybody in those files accountable. If they did the things, if they are politicians, get them out. Just get them out. Get everybody out of office who was in the files, and we'll start over from scratch. We'll figure out where to go from there. Because if we did that, I'm pretty sure a good chunk of the corruption that we've been experiencing would adequately be removed. And then we could figure out from there what's left and go from there. Personal opinion there. Gotta love it. But anyways, guys, it is past 10 p.m. I have been on for the last 2 hours. I'm going to wrap it up tonight. I will most likely be on tomorrow. If not, I will be on Wednesday. So follow me, and I will see you guys later. Much love and take care, my friends.